Guys, it's Reagan and welcome back to another reading vlog. This reading vlog I am actually super excited about because it's a bit of a challenge reading vlog. I am basically seeing if I can read just about 1,000 pages in only a few days. And also read an incredibly hyped duology in the process. But before we dive into the TBR itself, first a word from this video sponsor. Hi guys, so this video is sponsored in part by Bright Cellars, who I'm so excited to be partnering with. I actually have my box of incredible wines to try right here. If you're not familiar, Bright Cellars is a monthly wine subscription that uses a 7-question quiz as well as an algorithm to match you with your own personalized wine recommendations. And then from there, they deliver your matches directly to your door for the ultimate convenience. The cool thing about Bright Cellars too is that each box is unique and no box is ever the same. And you're also able to kind of keep track of the wines that end up being your favorite, which I personally love. Clay and I love variety and we are constantly always looking for new wines to try, which is what really called out to me about Bright Cellars. Not only is it fun to kind of be matched with wine, but something I personally really love about Bright Cellars is that they actually pull wines from really small wineries that we might not have access to within our own grocery stores, but also they have kind of unique wine options as well, including sustainable options, which I think is great. Signing up and taking the quiz itself was so easy and fun. It only takes a few minutes and also kind of brought me back to that time when I used to take a lot of internet quizzes, but instead of finding out which Disney princess I am, I get a selection of customized wine selections, which is honestly much better in my opinion. Outside of the personalized recommendations, as well as just the general convenience of not having to go out into the cold weather to pick up your wine and having it sent directly to your door, something else I think is super cool is that they actually send you educational material within the box itself. They call it their little wine wisdom, and in it they basically have a breakdown of all the different wines they sent you with a bunch of information on the back, which is super cool because it kind of allows you to get a little more educated and also kind of understand their choices that the sommeliers made when they sent these to you. Plus it's kind of neat to kind of track all the different locations that these wines come from, which I just think is really great. Of the wines that I got sent, I think I'm most excited to try Mojave Rain, which is a Cabernet from California, particularly because it has hints of strawberry and vanilla, which just sounds so tasty. I'm actually going to be having a girls wine night later on this week, so this is going to be perfect for that. Two other wines I'm excited to try as well is first Tag and Title, which has hints of green apple, which I love a dry white wine. And then I also have a wine called Calypto, which has hints of raspberry, which just sounds delicious. I of course have an offer for you guys. If you click the link below, you're able to get 50% off your first box of 6 wines. That's 6 bottles of wine for only $45, which is a really fantastic value. Again, big shout out to Bright Cellars for sponsoring and supporting my channel. I'm such a huge fan of their service, and truly, what is better than having a delicious glass of wine with a good read? Not much, I would say. So my goal for this reading vlog is to read quite a bit. But basically my hope is to read both These Violent Delights and Our Violet Ends by Chloe Gong. This is an incredibly popular YA fantasy duology that is a Romeo and Juliet retelling set in the 1920s in Shanghai and follows 2 different crime families who are at odds with each other. I've heard really fantastic things about this duology, particularly the concluding novel, and I'm just curious to see what I personally am going to think about it. I also feel like it's kind of fun, especially when I have the most reading motivation in the month of January, to try to read the entire thing over the course of 3 or 4 days. It's currently Tuesday, late afternoon, early evening, and I'm hoping to finish both of these books by Friday, but we shall see. But I have high hopes for myself. And also I think it's kind of fun to have a reading vlog where I read an entire series and give you my thoughts and feelings. So that was the intent here. But yeah, that's the plan over the next few days. Clay's actually going out of town to see some friends, so I should have a little extra time and a little less distraction to keep me from not accomplishing this goal. But welcome to the reading vlog. Wish me luck because I am definitely going to need it. And I'm actually going to get started reading right now. My little Matilda slug is going to join me on my reading session. We also got this new weighted blanket. We had a lot of treat ourselves moments at the end of the year. It's amazing. Big fan. Very cozy for reading. Isn't that right, Millie? So it's time to get to reading, isn't that right? We're gonna start book 1 of 2. Wish me luck. Hi, it's me. I've changed in pajamas. And I've also read about 60 pages of These Violent Delights. And so far this book has really engaged me right away. I would say it starts off pretty explosively, and the setting too has drawn me in. As I feel like I've said many a time, it's set in Shanghai during the 20s, so I just feel like it has so many great elements to the atmosphere that I've encountered so far. I think the 20s in general is just a cool setting to have any type of book, particularly kind of a fantasy action style book in, just because of the vibe it provides. This sort of crossing of traditional versus like modern sensibility, I think provides just an interesting level of tension. It also is really cool in terms of like architecture and all of that stuff. Historically speaking, Shanghai itself is kind of an international city and is also controlled by a variety of international powers from Britain, France, and the portion that is still controlled by the Chinese government in this book is also kind of torn in half between 2 crime families, the Scarlet Gang and the White Roses. Scarlet Gang is Chinese and the White Roses are Russian, but they've lived in Shanghai for many generations. The book itself opens on like a really intense sequence of pages where some sort of monster rises out of the river and a bunch of people die, and it's all rather gruesome and harrowing and confusing in a way that definitely intrigues you. But from there you quickly shift into the main character Juliet's point of view. She is the heir to the Scarlet Gang, and she recently has just come back from Shanghai from New York. The reason why she's been away for about 4 years is unknown to us, but clearly there's a lot of drama about it, and it seems like the drama is connected to Roma, who is the heir to the White Roses, and it seems like they have some sort of complicated history, but now they hate each other. But the tension that I've already experienced between their 2 characters in only the 60 pages I've read is just so fun and delicious and has immediately pulled me in. But obviously I have not read very much and I still have so many questions. I also just like that the author just sort of throws you into this story and you're just sort of grasping at what in the world is going on. It does seem like there is a rather heated political situation between these 2 families. The turf war is kind of at a height and each family is looking for that edge to outpace the other. And now with this sort of mysterious monster in the city, it might just throw everything upside down. But so far I'm liking it. Juliet's point of view, I really enjoy her so far. This is so random, but I appreciate that the author did not name the male main character Romeo and is instead Roma. Politically speaking too, this time period, there's also a lot of interesting stuff going on. In Russia, there's obviously the Russian Revolution and the rise of the Bolshevik government. And in China, there is a conflict between the nationalists and the Communist Party. And it does feel like this is at least referenced within the few pages I have read and is included in the overall like backdrop to this book that's going to propel all the characters forward, which definitely I feel like provides some great historical context and influence. So far I'm liking it. I've only read 60 pages, so I have a lot left to read. From what I've also encountered, this does feel like it's going to be a multi-POV book, which I usually prefer, and there are some characters that kind of exist on both sides of each family, which I also like. The tension's there, the ambiance is there, the writing is there. I'm hoping this book is gripping, dark, violent, and all of the above. I'm reading it really quickly, which is great because I have 2 books to read in not a very long amount of time. But that is my initial thoughts and feelings. We'll be reading more tonight, also watching some K-dramas tonight, as I do, and I am gonna make dinner soon because I'm getting hungry. But anyway, I'm rambling. 60 pages have been read. Watching some Queer Eye and laundry, but I've officially started dinner. The rice is cooking. And I am now going to put the fish in the oven. I'm making a very recognizable dish from a certain viral TikTok for dinner tonight. Salmon is ready. I literally just salt, pepper, and butter. I'm just waiting for the oven to preheat. She's going in. One of my goals for this year is to make more fish at home. I find cooking fish to be very intimidating, so I'm starting with baby steps. But we're succeeding. You can't even see my beautifully cooked piece of salmon because I smothered it in sriracha, but you know the drill. It's a mash and it's a consume. I don't have an avocado, but I do have kimchi, which I feel like is the most important ingredient. time to eat and do more crying while watching Queer Eye. Another very exciting news. Clay and I have started a new K-drama. It's been a minute since we've watched a K-drama together. We're watching Strong Woman, which is one of, I feel like, the most popular dramas. I feel like a lot of you guys have told me to watch this. I've seen it a lot on the internet. So we're excited about it. So we're on episode 5. What are your thoughts so far?
I like it. Of my favorites that I've ever watched, like shows, K-dramas, they've hooked me more than this one has. Like, there hasn't been that moment where I'm like, oh, this is gonna be good.
Yeah.
But I do think it's good and I've enjoyed it, but it's not breaking into my top 5 so far.
Okay, that's fair. To be fair, it's gonna be harder and harder to break into your top 5 the more dramas you watch.
I've got like 6 or 7, so it's pretty easy to get into my top 5 right now.
It's a lot of. The list isn't very long.
Bad one, though, so.
That's fair. I think this is cute so far. It has a larger thriller component than I expected. And that has definitely hooked me. But yeah, I'm liking it. I want to love it. So we're gonna keep going. It's ice cream time in true Clay fashion. He put the magic hard shell in the fridge. And I wouldn't call him out on this unless it was not the first time in the past week and a half that this has happened.
Yeah.
Hi everyone. K-drama watching is now over and I'm going to sit down and do some reading. Obviously, I have to be pretty aggressive with my page count if I want to successfully read this duology. I did read a little less tonight because it is Clay's last night before he's out of town for a few days. He's going to the mountains. And I'm staying warm in the apartment and reading. But I am going to do that right now. I'm gonna go grab Matilda, read as much as I can before I inevitably fall asleep. So, good night. Good morning, everyone. A pot of coffee for 1 this morning. I'm not sure if I should have made all this coffee. I'll probably just reheat it throughout the day. But nonetheless, cheers. Hi friends, happy to report I'm up. I'm dressed. I just filmed a video, as you can see. And I need to edit and do a variety of other things, but I've just been working this morning. I'm about to make some lunch. I'm happy to say I did read to page 160 between last night and I did read a little bit this morning. I'm planning to read much more later this afternoon and tonight. So I'll do a reading check-in in a bit, but I have to say the book is gruesome and it's captured my attention so far. I'll go into more detail a bit later, but just wanted to say hello. Happy Wednesday. Yeah. Lunch is a potato soup I bought at the grocery store. Did not make this. And Salt Lake City. Real Housewives of Salt Lake City, which I'm obsessed with. Hi, I changed into another sweater, not because I didn't love my previous one, but because I needed to stay warm and start making my bolognese. I'm making a tasty bolognese, which I basically plan to eat for dinner for the next 3 nights and freeze some. I love making homemade pasta sauce because it keeps so well and I can eat so much pasta. So I'm going to make that now, get that on the stove, and then the rest of the day is gonna involve me heating up my coffee and reading and talking to you guys about these violent delights. Because I have thoughts, but I just haven't had a moment to sit down and talk to you about them. But let's get cooking. Shopping is done and now it's time to saute. I just gotta get this on and then let it cook for like 3 hours. So I think I'm having a bit of a late dinner tonight, but That's all right. And just like that, everything is combined, and I'm just gonna let this simmer, simmer, simmer for a few hours and then eat. So, yum, it already smells super good. I'll link the recipe down below. I've used this one before. It's really easy and straightforward, so I've enjoyed it. Hi everyone, it is an hour or so later. Matilda and I are here, and I wanted to do a reading check-in of These Violent Delights. Obviously, I'm going to be doing some reading tonight, and I hope to finish this book tomorrow and start Our Violent Ends and finish that by Friday. But I have read 160 pages, and I wanted to do a check-in. So far, this book definitely has pulled me in. I've already mentioned how much I enjoy the setting, but over the past 160 pages, I would say the pacing of this book is very quick. Not only are you thrown both into Roma's and Juliet's world, and both of them are like the heir to their own crime family. Juliet herself has been away for the past 4 years, and she's just arrived back in Shanghai. And before she left, I would say she was more idealistic. She had more hope for the future, and also kind of turning the tide of violence that exists in Shanghai, but particularly between these two gangs. But an event of some kind has occurred between her and Roma that kind of broke her picture of the future, and also clearly the trust between the two, you know, rival individuals. And now they obviously hate each other very much. And Roma himself is also the heir of the White Roses, but due to the events of 4 years ago, his father doesn't really trust him. And his father is a very intense, violent man. And so he's just been trying to keep his head down and kind of make it through and maintain his kind of position within the family. At the beginning of this book and in the first chapter, a sort of new danger has appeared. I would describe it as a contagion, some sort of parasite that is sweeping the city, and oh my gosh, it is gruesome. This is YA, but it is violent. It is a very violent story, and due to just like the nature of the conflict, obviously I'm still very unclear of like the origins of it, but just how it's sweeping and very unexpected and also just very deadly, it makes the chapters read quickly. And given that it's kind of indiscriminately killing anyone and everyone, both Roma and Juliet have been kind of assigned to investigate it by their respective families, and they're starting to cross paths once again. And they hate each other, but they kind of grudgingly have to sort of work together. And when they kind of cross paths, that's when we start to learn more about their past. Outside of Juliet and Roma, we do follow some side characters, which I would love even more of a spotlight on. I really enjoy them, from Roma's little sister, and there's also a character named Kathleen, who I love. She's also trans, which I did want to shout out. So far, I'm liking this. It reads really quick. I would say my only complaint is that I almost wish there was like more timing, because the pieces of everything I really like, but I almost wish there was like more time to set up the hatred between these two characters, so when they have to inevitably work together, there's a more satisfying feeling. But because I mean, everything reads so fast and the book itself isn't so long, you kind of run into that almost immediately. And the same could almost be said for like the conflict itself. Everything's happening so fast, which does make it a quick read, but I almost wish it would slow down slightly just to kind of string us along a bit more, so when it happens, it's a little more satisfying. Maybe I've been reading too many like 900-page fantasy books, I don't know. But nonetheless, I am really liking this. It's very engaging, very dark, and just the setup and the characters and the writing and everything has been great so far. Just small things on my end. I'm going to read more tonight. I'm counting down the minutes till I can eat my bolognese. I'm so hungry. But I did want to let you know I read, and I'm probably about 30% of the way through. I'm gonna read more right now as we speak. So, and then once I read more, I can watch some Singles Inferno. But just wanted to say hello. I've read. Those are my thoughts. So far, so good. Bon appetit, everyone. This looks tasty, if I do say so myself. All right, I've grabbed the weighted blanket and the Matilda, and I'm gonna sit down and do some serious reading. I want to read like a good 150 pages right now, so I'm gonna do that. I'll check in when I do. Wish me luck. I'm so full of pasta. I'm gonna try not to fall asleep. Hi, it is almost sleep time, but I wanted to let you know I am just about at the 300 page mark of this book. I'm gonna do some more reading, but I am getting a little sleepy, so I thought I would give you a reading check-in. So here's the thing about this book. I feel like I like all the pieces. Like when I take a step back and I look at everything, I'm like, I like all of you. When it comes together, unfortunately, it's just not a book that like I'm able to fall like head first in love with. Keep in mind, I pick up every single book I ever read hoping that it's gonna be a 5-star read. So especially when a book is like hyped and I'm really wanting to love it, if I don't like have that head over heels, can't put this book down feeling, I sometimes get a little morose about it. All that to be said though, I am liking this book. It's just perhaps not as like intensely captivating as I initially thought. That being said though, the plot is escalating, and one thing it does do really well is it does throw like plot twists left and right. I feel like they could be more impactful if the pacing was adjusted slightly and we were given more time to kind of become attached to more things, so when the plot twists occurred it like really hits hard. But I am reading this book really quickly. It is very entertaining. And it also has some like Romeo and Juliet references I enjoyed, like very low key. I appreciate that this is kind of like a retelling of that super classic tale, but it's also very much its own thing. It's not like a direct regurgitation of the story with just like new character names and like a new setting. It's like inspired, it's taking some aspects of that but truly bringing us like a wholly new story, which I really like. All of that to say, I'm liking it, not loving it. I do appreciate the dynamic between our two main characters, this sort of two rival gangs, both of them having their own personal conflicts as they're both having to deal with the responsibility and expectations of being the heir. Juliet specifically as a main character has the additional burden of being a woman in a society as well as a profession dominated by men. And I also feel like the author does really like to discuss and explore the historical, social aspects of the time and place, which I like. As I'm saying, like there's so many aspects of this book I really like, but I just haven't fallen headfirst into it yet. I have 150 pages of this book left. I am really enjoying it. It's just not currently like a 5-star read. That being said, I'm looking forward to picking up the sequel and final book because I've just heard even better things about that one, so like maybe that will be like my 5-star read, you know? But for now, I'm gonna keep reading. I'm gonna probably finish this book tomorrow morning and then start book 2. But wanted to give you my thoughts. I like Roma, I like Juliet, I like everyone. I particularly love Kathleen. Anytime I get a Kathleen chapter, I'm like glued to the screen. I'm clued in, and I just want that feeling for the whole book, you know? But anyway, I think partially too, I'm just really annoyed with all of these old men like ignoring a very clear problem. Anyway, I'm gonna get back to reading now. Good morning, everyone. I also desperately need to charge my Kindle, but that's all right. I'm here this morning and I'm gonna finish these Violent Delights right now. I passed the 300-page mark last night. It's time to finish. Hello, wanted to give you a quick OOTD. I opted for a dress today. I've had this dress for a while. It's from Madewell, some tights because it's cold. But I'm happy to report I finished these Violent Delights, and I will do a final reading check-in in a bit, but right now I want to make lunch and amongst some other things. But I have read 450 pages, and I'm gonna start book 2 of this vlog very soon. Tilda did a great job keeping me company while I read. Another day, another grocery store soup that I reheated, topping it with some cheese and some tortilla chips. Gonna be delicious. Hi, I am finally taking a second to sit down and wrap up my thoughts and feelings of these Violent Delights because I'm about to also immediately go into reading Our Violent Ends. But these Violent Delights, I ended up liking this book. I would stay by my statement of I didn't necessarily love it, but I did find it entertaining, and I will say the last like 20 pages were really explosive and also made me very excited for the final installment. I feel like the strength of this book is definitely the characters, sort of dramatic tension between Juliet and Roma, but also all the side characters. I actually feel like the ensemble cast of this book series is so good and I want more of them. If anything, like I almost wish this book was like 200 pages longer so I could get more of the side characters, because anytime we get their point of view, I'm such a fan and I just really love how they interact in this world. I also feel like the gang politics are the most interesting, sort of inter-gang tension between rival heirs, which you see both on Juliet and Roma's side. I really love all of that. Obviously there was a sort of contingent monster element to it, which was definitely gruesome and interesting, but I did find it less interesting than the sort of character dynamics and the kind of rivalry that existed between the gangs and also within the gangs. Hoping in the next book there's maybe a little bit more of that. Not that I didn't enjoy the monster stuff. I would just say I preferred like the conflict between Juliet and Tyler and Roma and Dimitri more, because I just thought that was like really, really interesting. All of that being said, I think I would give These Violent Delights like a 3.25, 3.5 stars. Definitely a solidly entertaining YA fantasy book. And I'm really looking forward to picking up the next one. And yeah. I just love when there are so many dramatic obstacles between our two main characters, and there is a lot of that within this series. Like, oof, it's so entertaining in that way. So I'm literally going to go into my office right now for a change of setting and start reading Our Violent Ends as we speak. Matilda has already joined me, but here we are, book 2. Hello, it's me, and I've been sitting here reading. I'm just actually under having read 100 pages of Our Violent Ends, and I'm gonna be taking a bit of a break because my friend Emily is coming over. We're having a girls like BTS night, and I can't wait. But I do want to talk about Our Violent Ends because so far I am really invested in the story, and I do feel like I am going to like this more than These Violent Delights. First and foremost, the end of These Violent Delights was very explosive, and the consequences of a certain action is very central in terms of creating the tension of Our Violent Delights, and it is good, and it is bloody, and it's complicated. And I also just love how much the author has kind of like turned up the volume on this like tragic, violent love, like I will kill for you, I will burn down the world for you kind of mentality. Like obviously IRL, not a great approach, but in a YA fantasy story, it is very entertaining. And then on top of that, I'm so happy to see that the kind of cast, the side cast of characters are much more central in this book, which I adore. As I already mentioned, I love Kathleen. She is definitely much more closely working with Juliet, and also just Kathleen's story is one I just love. She has a very tragic kind of background with her family, a really complicated one, and kind of seeing her, I don't know, like re-find her friendship with Juliet, and I'm just rooting for her so much, and I just really enjoy reading her chapters. But it's not just Kathleen, we also get more chapters by Alicia, who is Roma's younger sister, who I also find to be very endearing, as well as Marshall and some other characters too, which I just find so good. And I feel like it rounds out sort of the characterization, and just it makes me much more pulled into the book. I also feel like the author is doing a better job kind of balancing the gang politics with this sort of fantastical mystery that's like outside of those politics. So we're getting more conversations of both Roma and Juliet working with their fathers and kind of getting their hands a little dirtier in the day-to-day, which I think provides more world building and just overall makes the story a bit more interesting. But the best part of this book is the tension, all of the secrets, all of this like bloody love. It's good so far. 100 pages has been read. Do plan to read more tonight once my friend leaves, but I'm going to take a bit of a break. But I'm happy to report I've read, and I am liking it more than the first one, which is what I was hoping. So that's all I got. Class tonight going strong. Woo! We have our wine. We're going to be watching our BTS soon. But first, we must eat. Hi, Millie. We just wrapped up watching 2 episodes of Run BTS, the picture scavenger hunt episodes, which are some of my favorite. And I'm now going to go back to reading and then go to bed. But tonight was so much fun. So fun to catch up with Emily and watch BTS videos. We're still texting about BTS as we speak. So, you know, that's my life. Hi everyone, good morning. I'm up and dressed. It is so chilly today. Matilda's also wearing a nice sweater fleece, but I'm happy to say I've read just under the 200-page mark of Our Violent Ends last night. I'll be doing a reading update in a bit. My plan today is to work to finish this second book so I can have that duology under my belt, but just wanted to let you know I'm up, I'm dressed as much as I plan to be today, and that's it. BTS night was very successful last night, so much fun, and I'm looking forward to having a nice cozy day at home. Matilda likes to turn her fleeces into tube tops. Don't you, Millie? I have some leftover rice, which can only mean one thing. I'm gonna make a quick fried rice with some eggs and the vegetables I have on hand, which is just an onion and a carrot. So let's whip it together. And just like that, all done. Hi, lunch is consumed. It got so gloomy outside. I think it's going to rain tonight, which I have absolutely no complaints about. But I'm sitting down to do more reading. Before I actually pick up any more of my book, I wanted to talk to you guys about my thoughts and feelings so far, as I have read now just under the 200-page mark of Our Violent Ends. And I'm happy to report I am liking this book more than the first one. And one thing particularly that I wanted to give the author a shout out about, I mentioned in the first one that I wish there was like more time to develop this tension of hatred between our main characters in the first one, but due to a variety of events, there's been a lot of time for the hatred to develop between these two characters throughout the first one and now into the second one. So it makes the intensity and the push and pull between them to be very entertaining, particularly in Our Violent Ends. And it's quite addicting. Like, it's hard to put down because of those reasons. The overall plot and story, while it's expanding a bit, it's still kind of staying in the same lane as the last one. So I'm curious to see how it's going to develop. Obviously, I have about 300 pages left, so there's a lot of time for it to do so. But I am really intrigued more than anything by this romance, Juliet and Roma, and then again, the side characters are getting much more of a spotlight, which I've already mentioned. And I do feel like just the overall pacing of this book has for sure improved from book 1 to book 2. And yeah, I am liking it quite a bit. I'm so cozy. I hope I don't fall asleep, but I'm going to do more reading now. I think I'm going to heat myself up a cup of coffee as well, because I need that. I have my faux fireplace on. Time to read. Coffee and joining the bundle that is Matilda on the couch, and we're gonna get back to reading. Hi, we are officially in the home stretch. I have been doing some reading. I've passed the 300-page mark of this book and have under 200 pages left, so I'm on track to finish it tonight. Plot is definitely heating up, and something I appreciate in this sequel in comparison to the first one is the first one had some gang complexity and some like internal squabbling. Like, it was definitely referenced, but it was definitely much more focused on this sort of monster plot line, and the plot line was very external to the issues that were kind of happening within the gangs themselves in some way. It's kind of more of a product of the environment. Versus in this sequel, I would say those two plot lines of the monster is much more intertwined into the complexity of the gang politics. And the gang politics exists like internally within each group, because there's different factions vying for power, different heirs, you know, kind of pursuing different threads and doing what they think is best for this blood feud. Obviously, in between, it gets even much more complicated, as like any engagement or conversation can look to be an act of being a traitor and all of that stuff. I do feel like the author has done a good job kind of expanding out the plot to be more intricate and therefore make it a little more what in the world is going to happen, because we know that the monsters are kind of existing, but we don't really know who or what their motivations are, like what they're connected to. And you're also seeing all of these issues within each group as well, and it's kind of getting much muddier than it was before, and I feel like it's just creating a much more complex situation that for me has drawn me in quite a bit. There's definitely a few things I have guessed both in book 1 and in book 2. I do feel like with spending more time with different characters, we're just seeing multiple angles of this plot, which I just feel like makes it just a little more engaging, which is why I'm liking book 2 even more than book 1. And I can confidently say, I don't know what's going on. And I also appreciate how the author is continuing to include kind of outside historical influences too, and like kind of the political reality of Shanghai during this time is important as well, and I think it adds obviously to the plot. So yeah, over 300 pages read. I've read now over 750 pages, and I'm going to be finishing this other book tonight. I'm gonna take a break. I think I'm going to relax. It is Friday night. I think I'm gonna watch some K-dramas and just unwind, hang out with Matilda. It's so cold outside, so bundle up nice and warm, but that's the plan. Just wanted to let you know we're getting there. I'm going to succeed for this reading vlog. I'm gonna read both of these books in 4 days. I have until the end of tonight to finish this, and I know I'll be able to. Solo K-drama Acquired Extraordinary You, which I've heard good things about. It kind of plays with tropes. It basically follows our main character who figures out she's like in a story, but she's a side character, and then I think she decides to like change her own fate and become the main character, something along those lines, which I think is such an interesting concept. So I'm gonna start it. All right, friends, it's time. No more K-dramas. I'm gonna sit and read and finish this book, and I will wrap up this whole vlog tomorrow. Hi everyone, and welcome to the end of the vlog, the next day. I'm happy to report I finished both of these books over the course of a few days, and I did finish Our Violent Ends last night. I'm gonna primarily focus on my final thoughts and feelings for this book, but I did want to quickly say this was 493 pages, and this was 439 pages. I'm not even gonna pretend to know how to do math. That is a total of 932 pages, which I read just over the course of like 4 days, which I'm gonna say I'm very proud of myself for. Definitely starting the reading year strong. That being said, my final thoughts on Our Violent Ends is that one thing Chloe Gong is really good at doing, and is escalating a plot in that final act of a story. It's very explosive. It really propels you through the book itself. And I do really appreciate that not only were the plot twists incredibly entertaining, and for the most part I didn't guess all of them, but I also appreciated that the scale of the conflict did feel much larger within this final concluding novel, which made it overall kind of just like more satisfying and entertaining to read. I will again say side characters superior to anyone else in this story. Like, I love Marshall and Benedict and Kathleen and all of those storylines so much. Of course, I still really enjoy Juliet and Roma, but I would say side characters are superior. All in all, I enjoyed Our Violent Ends. I appreciated the focus on the nationalist versus communist sort of element to this particular time period. I continually loved the atmosphere she created within Shanghai itself. Again, it's just kind of one of those cases where I liked everything, but I just wasn't so wholly drawn in by the plot, and it wasn't something that absolutely blew my mind, couldn't put it down, but it was very entertaining, and I did really enjoy the writing and the characters, and I will for sure check out more books by Chloe Gong. I would give this second and final book like a 3.75. Definitely a solid read and pickup, and this series is for sure one I would still recommend. I just wouldn't say it's like my new all-time fave or obsession, despite the fact I picked these books up hoping it would be, but it was still a lot of fun to read, and I would check it out. If you love atmospheric historical fiction fantasy stories, the setting and time period of this was so cool, and that was probably my favorite part of the books themselves. But I wrapped up my read. I have finished these books. Again, big shout out to Bright Sellers for sponsoring this video. I'll have a link to their site if you guys want to learn more down below. But thank you so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I will see you soon with another video soon. Goodbye.